Malcontent News is a team of journalists, activists, and researchers with three key missions. A commitment to show an unfiltered view of the before, during, and after of key events, live, as it happens. To defend the First Amendment using our rights of a free press. And to amplify the voices of underrepresented individuals including Black, Indigenous, persons of color, and the LGBTQIA+ community. Our team is committed to seeking equality for all and holding those in power accountable. The easiest way to support Malcontent News is to bookmark our website at malcontentnews.com, like and follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, and in the Google News app. To provide financial support, you can become a patron, make a one-time donation through Venmo, or link your Twitch account to your Amazon Prime account and use your free subscription to subscribe to Malcontent News. Thank you for supporting independent journalism and for being a malcontent. Good evening, Malcontents. My name is David. I am the Malcontent, and welcome to another episode of Malcontentment Happy Hour. I hope this finds everybody well and sufficiently cooled off after our blazing heat that we had over the last few days. We've got a big show that is set up. I forgot what day it is. Today is Thursday, July 1st. 2021. We have a lot to cover today. We've got 6 stories for you. And so with that, we're just going to go jump right on into the land acknowledgement and go ahead and get started. Malcontent News acknowledges that the city of Seattle is on unceded Coast Salish land, specifically the ancestral land of the Duwamish, Squamish, Stillaguamish, and Muckleshoot tribes. We recognize the stewardship of Seattle's lands by the Coast Salish people since time immemorial, and the disruption of this work by broken treaties. We make this acknowledgement to remind ourselves that by being here today, we strive to remedy this injustice through our beliefs and our actions. And once again, everybody, thank you for coming in. This is the part of the show where I ask everybody, please spam those hearts. Go ahead and spam those hearts. Make the Facebook and Twitter algorithm think that there is good content here, because there is good content here. If you're watching us on Twitch, then you can go ahead and become a subscriber and use a remote. If you're an Amazon Prime customer, you actually have a free Twitch subscription in the can that you can use with us. And you can take $2.50 of Jeff Bezos' money and put it into Malcontent News' pocket. If you're on YouTube, sorry YouTube, you don't have anything fancy over there, but you can go ahead and type in love you mods, love you admins, miss you Jennifer, love you David, just in a non-creepy way. And with that, we're going to go ahead and move on to our first story of the evening. Listen, learn, act. That is the words that are coming from Lake Washington School District high school students. We have covered here on Malcontent News the stories of racism within the Lake Washington School District system, particularly in the high schools. Students of color face continued challenges in our public education system. Racism lurks in every corner of our public education system, and sometimes it is overt, and sometimes it is just under the surface. Sometimes it's microaggressions, and sometimes it is just outright overt racism. It creates a culture of mistrust. If you are working in a school to learn and educate yourself, and you feel you have to constantly be looking over your shoulder, it's hard to learn. It is hard to thrive in that kind of environment. And 4 students spoke out about their experience in the Lake Washington School District. They produced a very powerful 20-minute video that was debuted on Juneteenth in Redmond. We're not going to show all 20 minutes. We don't have time in an hour show, but we do have this clip, and we have some guests that we'll be pulling on live as part of that. And with that, I'm going to roll the clip.
Lake Washington School District definitely says they value their students of color, but I don't feel like they're very valued, because sometimes there's hostile situations and it's like, why is no one helping? Why aren't admins stepping in? Why aren't teachers stepping in?
I don't feel like our school values BIPOC students. I think a lot of the time when BIPOC students are being recognized, it's for the school district to appear better than it is. It's kind of like being a poster child, for the Lake Washington School District.
Going through speech therapy and having 2 speech therapists and being in special ed classrooms almost all day and being bullied because of race. The school district does a good job of just focusing on the people in a certain range of normal. Everybody else has to figure out on their own.
I feel like everyone's personal experiences do matter, and they need to be addressed regardless, big or small, who you are, what your race is, your gender, your sexual orientation. They should be addressed.
You can't address a problem if people aren't willing to say the problem, right? In a sense, it's like nobody's going to say the problem unless they're so fed up with it.
Administration only talking to you when there's an issue they have to fix, because a lot of the time too that issue isn't fixed and you're kind of just left to do everything yourself. I showed a book called The Only Black Student, but it was basically a book that would help teachers and admin alike understand how to recognize Black students in particular, and it could be applicable to a lot of BIPOC students that weren't Black as well. And I was told basically that if I wanted to do that, I would have to buy the books and supply them. So why is it that I, a biracial student, would have to work hard and pay the money that I knew my school had to respect me? It's unreasonable, especially when it takes such an emotional and sometimes even physical toll on these students.
Like that felt like the normal to me, so I couldn't really recognize it for a while. So I just kind of wish someone else, like a teacher or administrator or whoever was, kind of recognized it and kind of helped me get out of that place. Because like the people who've had with that kind of stuff has happened since the beginning, they don't know anything, so that's like the normal for them, so they don't know what to do about it.
I was tokenized by a lot of students and teachers alike, expected to know certain things about my culture and talk on things that I didn't want to talk on. When we would learn about, say, slavery in history class, they would look at me and say, well, Adrian, what do you think? You know what I think, Like, it was bad. I don't know what else to say. It's just kind of that level of responsibility that was immediately put on me to explain different things, and the fact that the teacher felt uncomfortable to do it themselves. And that was very difficult for me, having to constantly educate my peers. And I definitely don't want students walking up to me asking me what Kwanzaa is. I don't know. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know.
I think it's kind of difficult in Lake Washington with so many staff, admin being white and can't relate to our experiences.
Racism is a mental health crisis. I know students, they may not feel as comfortable coming to their regular student counselor as it doesn't pertain to them. They may not be able to relate, so they just bottle it up and keep it inside.
Mock trials? Mock trials. Let me tell you, I have seen the costumes that students have dressed up in. There were students throughout my entire high school career dressed up as Cleopatra and Chinese people. Chinese people. Deliberately racist. Went to the nearest costume store, ordered online, put face paint on and everything to imitate facial hair that is stereotypically and racistly associated with Chinese people. and then they get a better grade because they truly dressed up and acknowledged the character. I mentioned it at a staff meeting about diversity, and then after the fact I heard that certain teachers weren't happy about me mentioning it and said that they felt like I was attacking them. Well, guess what? That's a white supremacist narrative, to feel like I'm constantly attacking you for acknowledging the things that you have done to me and other people. That is not an attack. That's me giving you an opportunity to take accountability.
Very powerful video. Again, the video was about 20 minutes long. And with that, I would like, excuse me, I'm a little choked up from that. I'd like to go ahead and welcome our guests onto the show. I'd also like to remind our guests, because I'm looking down on the control panel and I see a number of you are still muted. So if you could unmute, that would probably be very helpful to having a conversation. I am going to go around the horn here, and hopefully I'm going to get everybody's names in the right order. Going clockwise, we have Joshua, Adrian, Diana, and help me out here. My producer has a note of Howie is the pronunciation of your name. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. The other thing is, I just want to let everybody know, Howie is on a cell connection. Cell generally doesn't work too well. With StreamYard, we'll keep our fingers crossed. I know Howie has dropped a couple of times while they were in the green room. My first question, actually, Howie, I'm going to go to you first, because I want to make sure that you get some time in. Tell me about your experience in going to in the Lake Washington School District, and tell our audience what it is like, and help them understand.
The Lake Washington School District is a good place of learning and providing education, but I think it's hard for students of color to really understand, or to really get to experience their own learning about their own history, learning about their own how people who look like them lived in the past, because a lot of the curriculum that we learn is very straightforward American history, or the books that we are reading in English classes are very much books that have been read for decades, that are often written by those who aren't of color, or those who just don't have mindsets that we really can feel connected to. And so personally, I found it hard to really understand what someone who looked like me how they would be living life centuries back, other than the general like slavery and the very much white oppressor perspective. And it was just very difficult to kind of feel comfortable and knowledge on what someone like me went through throughout all these years prior to me. So yeah.
Joshua, let me ask you this question. Mm-hmm. There was a number of stories there where complaints have fallen upon the deaf ears of the administration of the school. Could you talk a little bit about that?
So about like an administrational problems with the color, are you talking more specifically?
Yeah.
So I would say, I think there's a lot of problems, and there's a lot of misunderstanding, and there's a lot of misinformation, and there's a lot of, I feel like, insecurities, and there's a lot of area for growth and learning. And then without that learning and that knowledge, it creates this sense of, I wouldn't call it of being scared, but like it makes this sense where people are ill-informed, and they create these extreme conclusions, or create these extreme ideas. And then it creates these problems within schools with children, and then administrators and etc., causing this problem of there being radicalized views that cause problems with administrators and how they deal with it and other things. So,
Diana, as a parent, I'm going to go ahead and unmute because I know you've got a little one in the background, so I muted you for a moment.
Thank
Diana,
you.
as a parent, what is your view in all of this? And what did you experience growing up? And has there been any improvement, or is this the same old, same old?
I didn't grow up in Washington State. I grew up in Colorado. A similar demographics, honestly, as to Kirkland, but a university town. So it was a little bit different with the types of community that I had access to growing up than what my children have had access to. It's unfortunate how little has changed between when I was a high school student and today. Many of the things that I was out on the streets marching about and complaining about some odd years ago, decades ago, are still the case today, and it's saddening that there's that level of isolation. And it's interesting as we've over the last couple of years, as this has become more apparent that the problems that we're facing were not unique to us, is that it's more insidious than it probably was when I was growing up, because when I was growing up it was called racism, right? And now, and along the way, racism became a dirty word, right? And it was just, so there's more of a gaslighting that happens, I think, of because people are saying, I can't be racist. There's no way that I could be racist, but it ignores the systems that have been in place that perpetuate implicit bias, that perpetuate racism. So representation in education is still the same. The disparity in educational outcomes and achievements in some cases have even gotten worse than they were than when I was growing up because of changes in educational policy. So it's from that perspective, it's somewhat disheartening, right? Even though as much progress as we've made, we haven't made enough progress. Mm-hmm. And then as a parent, it's, when we were choosing where we lived, honestly, we were moving to Washington thinking that we moved in a very liberal place, and we chose our house thinking a good school district without really having to think about what that experience would be like. And part of that was that the numbers were so small at that time that we couldn't see what was happening to Black students, and with the investigation and advocacy, it becomes very apparent what's happening within Lake Washington School District, and that it is systemic, and that it's problematic, what's happened given the resources, the education level, and all that we have here, that's happening.
Adrian, has the school system responded at all to the video? I mean, the video came out on the 19th, so and I realize that essentially the school season is over, but it's been out for almost 2 weeks now. Adrian, if you don't know, if anybody else has the answer, has the school system said anything?
I personally haven't heard anything from the school system. I've heard things from individual teachers, and a lot of them were like the teachers I mentioned in my segment of teachers that actually did well to try and support BIPOC students. And I would say I don't really expect the administration to make a worthy or worthwhile response, because the only response that could actually be worthy or worthwhile is changing the system that we have now, and also going back and recognizing and acknowledging all the mistakes that have been made. And I personally, with what the school has done so far, I don't expect them to do that, which is very disappointing. I hope that they do, and I think that there's always space for growth, but I haven't heard anything, and I don't expect to hear a meaningful or helpful response.
What kind of changes would you be looking for?
I think that there should be the code of conduct that teachers and administration also have to follow, not just that students have to follow. And I think that they should also expand the code of conduct for students that they have in the student handbook in regards to race and just overall bigotry. Because right now there isn't a clear pathway for how to take care of racism in schools, whether it be from students or teachers. So that's what I would require, because I think it holds people accountable for their actions if there's a detailed process on how to handle it.
I know some were juniors and some were seniors on this project. Who has graduated? Who are seniors that graduated on the call here?
I graduated in 2020.
Okay. Howie, so what's your next step? Let me go to Howie. Adrian, I'll come back to you first, but Howie, what's your next step?
I'm going to college after summer's over. Yeah.
And where are you going?
Stanford University, California.
And your major is going to be?
Not really decided yet. I'm leaning towards political science, like a justice and law emphasis, but for a pre-law track, but I'm still exploring.
And Adrian, how about you?
I currently go to Bellevue College. I'm a full-time college student at the moment, and then I also do acting and music and poetry. So I make time to fulfill my artistic projects. I'm working towards a humanities degree right now.
Diana, let me ask you the same question. What would you want to see changed at the school? In the school system, I shouldn't say the school, but within the district.
Yeah, in the school system. I would like to see increased representation of teachers. I think it's important for students to see themselves reflected in the classroom. And it's also important for students to see the world reflected beyond the walls of our school district. So what is the world? I think that just there needs to be more diverse teaching staff and administrative staff. I would like to also see that there be acknowledgement that there is an impact on our students, that there's institutional bias, because it takes time for change. There's no mistake, it takes time. But while change is happening, kids are being affected by a system that is not in their favor, that adversely impacts them. So I'd like to see acknowledgement and appropriate interventions and support for those students specifically. I would also like to see the placement of students with teachers who have demonstrated non-biased teaching practices. Like there needs to be some level of intentional placement with teachers that understand what it looks like to have a equitable classroom. And because teachers are on different journeys, right, that there needs to be some level of intentionality in that. From a curriculum perspective, I would like to see a more reflective and inclusive curriculum that is a strength-based curriculum that reflects all of history, not just the narrative of being a social justice warrior or a victim or a slave, and that's not just for Black history, but also for all types of history. So I'd like to see more perspectives there. And then, I think there needs to be policies and practices in place around when things do happen from a disciplinary perspective, that there is some level of support that goes around there to understand actually what's happening and what's at play. We can call it all kinds of different things, but ultimately the discipline that happens with specifically our Black boys in the school district is alarming, and that there needs to be some level of inspection and support around processes and how it's affecting them on a day-to-day basis. Those are some very immediate and tangible changes. I would love to see some ongoing accountability from the school board as well as a superintendent, and being able to measure that too. So saying that we're anti-racist, right, is one thing, but then putting money and behavior behind that, and then measuring progress against that, and some level of accountability at both the district level and at the building level. It's really important to see both the short-term changes that are needed as well as the long-term change that is guaranteed, so that our students get an equitable and free and appropriate public education as they're entitled underneath the law, which they're not getting right now.
I think one of the challenges that we face in Kirkland and the Lake Washington School District is a lot of people in the district believe that Kirkland is, and in a lot of ways it is this progressive town, it is this woke town. We had a Black Lives Matter sign up last year down at the waterfront. Nicaila Rice does these sit down and listen sessions that are supported by the city. There are supportive city councilors that's separate from the school district. But the reality is, if we look at, say, the incident that happened, Javalicious, we covered this story on a racial incident that happened there about a month ago. Surprise, surprise, another racial incident yesterday over their Black Lives Matter signs over there. The other thing we've always advocated is it is not up for Black America to educate white America for free on what white America should be doing to educate themselves. With that preamble, and I'm going to go around the horn. Joshua, I'm going to start with you first. if you were to give a call to action to our audience and to the city of Kirkland and the parents who are in the Lake Washington School District, what would that call to action be? What can they do as white allies to support you better and to stop the racism problems in our school district?
So I think one, there has to be a higher level of education around just color and around things, because I feel like in America more specifically, it feels like there's a curtain or iron curtain or a wall around the media and the information we get, because we get information is set in such a way where we only get to hear like what's the U.S. doing or how the U.S. is affecting other countries, and I feel like it's really prominent in like places like the Middle East, like how, for example, the U.S. depicts Iran as a place that's hostile and aggressive, but Iran is actually not making nuclear bombs and other things because they want to be viewed as a peaceful country. And I feel like, and it's feeling like in this case, I feel like it's a lack of education. In a lot of other cases, a lack of education. So one, educate yourself, and then two, I feel like to not be racist, you have to be like anti-racist. Because I feel like there's no middle ground between saying I'm just going to be non-biased and I'm going to be the middle ground, right? Because realistically there is no middle ground, right? Because you have a bias or you don't have a bias, right? And I feel like there are people that are educated, but I feel like they're also at the same time there's not people that are not educated, and it creates what's it called? This is the best word. It creates a sense of fear, or it feels like you fear the unknown and you fear what you don't know. So that would be my answer. So education, and then trying to help balance the school system so or systems in general, so people of color have equal opportunity. So
Howie, same question for you.
I think the question was, what would I hope that parents and people in the district do first? I don't want to be that person, but I think that they should join the Facebook group called Amplify the Voices of Students of Color in LWSD, and the Instagram Students of Color Speak Out. There's some really great resources and conversations on those accounts. But beyond echoing what Joshua just said, I think accountability is a great way for many people to begin their paths to better understanding and better taking initiative towards anti-racism. A lot, as Josh said, there is no middle ground. You either are biased or not. You either are racist or anti-racist. And so I think by taking accountability and putting people in their place, righting the wrongs, pointing things out as they should be, it allows for more honesty to be present and for people to really understand, hey, this is a microaggression. Hey, this is racist. Blackface is not okay. Pointing out how people dress and mimicking that, copying their hair just because you think it looks great, but there's a deeper meaning to a lot of these things, and it makes people of color feel uncomfortable when you overstep, and taking accountability for that, saying, hey, I overstepped, I did wrong, and I need to fix that. I need to recognize that this is not okay and I shouldn't do it in the future, and I should point that out to people other than me in the future and say, this is not okay. Creating that baseline and saying, I recognize what is racist, and I am committed to becoming more and more anti-racist, and promoting that would be a great thing to see in this community.
Adrian, same question for you.
I would say, building off of taking accountability, specifically for the parents when it comes to the LWSD, like just the school district in general, I think it's important to recognize that these people who have done certain things to people of color could be your children. And I think that that's often overlooked, and it's always, my child would never do that because I raised them a certain way. My child would never do that, and if they did, it's because they don't know any better. But after a while, we need to stop making excuses for upsetting and disrespectful behavior, and that opportunity should be taken to actually educate that child or educate that parent on the ways to move forward. Because too often it is kind of like similar to almost like a boys will be boys. Like white people will be white people. They will make mistakes, but those mistakes have consequences. And too often, I feel like, especially in the school district, those consequences are overlooked. And it almost turns into the white students or the white faculty who commit those like actions against people of color become the victims. And that's not the situation. If someone like hurts me, I'm not going to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, you didn't see me there." Like they hurt me, and that's not okay. And I think as well, like on the basis of like Kirkland/Redmond being like a woke area, I don't personally think it is, because I think a lot of the time the action stops at just recognizing the fact that Black people or people of color exist, and that's not good enough. And with things like the mural got defaced not even a week after it was up.
Yeah.
And that was horrible. That was so disrespectful and hurtful. But a lot of the time when people talk about it, they just talk about the fact that there was a mural there, not the fact that there are people within this community who made moves to try and stop that from existing. And that's upsetting. And I look at it as like, I see racism kind of as like a snowball rolling down a mountain, right? Someone has to start it off. People have to start off, they have to start pushing it, right? As time goes on, it picks up speed, it keeps rolling, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, just because you take your hands off it and you stop pushing it doesn't mean it stops rolling. And if it hits me, I have the right to be upset. And people have to take accountability for those actions in the same way. Because I think a lot of the time people, especially recently, have been acknowledging that BLM is important or that it exists and stop there. But it's like, if there has been any moment in your life where you have aided and like abetted acts of racism, you still have growing to do. You still need to support the community, and you can't just stop when it feels right, because people are still being affected by those actions that you took in the past or in the present. So that needs to be fixed. It can't just be stopped whenever people get tired of it, because people of color don't have the privilege to be tired of it.
Yeah, I agree with everything that you said. Nicaila Rice has said this on the show. I've said this. Putting up a Black Lives Matter sign in your front yard, hashtagging Black Lives Matter. Oh, I made my profile black for a week last year. These are performative actions. This is just checking the box to make that person feel better about, see, I did something, but that's not doing something. Doing something is when you see a microaggression or a racist act is going, hey, no, not on my watch. Or pulling this out and start filming it so it's documented and lighting these people up when they do this stuff. A student, male, female, otherwise in 2021, shouldn't have to worry about somebody doing this to their hair because, oh, let me see how it feels. You know, like, are you a pet? I've heard those stories in the school, and I'm just like, you have to be kidding me. This is still going on in 2021. This is like, what? And unfortunately it is. And I think it comes from a place of ignorance. But then, to your point, when the school system doesn't say, hey, and there aren't consequences, and the parents go, it's not that big of a deal. It is a big deal. And we have to start treating it as a big deal. That's my 2 cents on this. Diana, I'm going to give you the last word. So whatever you want to close with, I'm going to give you the last word on this. We've run a little over, but I think this was a really critical segment.
I thank you for that. First of all, the students for speaking out are courageous. I mean, it takes a lot of, and I want to applaud them for their initiative and effort in speaking. So this is really about them and their words and their experience. You know, that being woke to me is you're never awake or woke. You know, if you think that you're woke, you're more ignorant than you think you are, because it's a learning process. I'm not woke. I don't even pretend that I am. I am constantly learning and investigating my own biases. And that comes from being self-aware, right? And tapping into your emotions and your surroundings and your feelings. If you look to your left and to your right and everybody looks like you, sounds like you, That's step number one, parents, right? To investigate. If everybody looks like you, holds the same values as you, that's step one. Step number two around, and this is important, there are only about 750 Black students in the school district. Our voices alone are not going to be sufficient to make change.
Yeah.
So putting up the Black Lives Matter sign is great. Talking to your children is fantastic. But what's more important is writing to the board, writing to the superintendent, engaging the district to demand that every student shows up to school safe. That's the bar where most Black parents are, is they're not sure that their students are safe in their schools. So they're not even worried about education, they're worried about physical and mental safety, right? So when we talk about empathy, and this could be your kid, Black families and other families of color, this extends to other demographics as well, our voices, there are not enough of us, we need our voice amplified. So write, email, advocate, participate, call out, act upon that indignance that you'd see. So if it makes you feel some way, act on it, because it's probably what you should be doing.
It's a really important point. When we were covering CHOP, and we covered CHOP really extensively last year, very common comment we would get is, well, there are a lot of white people there, I don't see any Black people. And of course, this comment is meant as snark and to minimize and we would be explaining over and over again, Seattle is less than 8% Black. So guess what? If you see 7 Black people and 93 people of other races, you are seeing a representative sample of the population of Seattle. And what you are seeing is white allyship. What we have learned, unfortunately, in the last 13 months, a lot of that was performative because a lot of those people have disappeared. But to your point, Kirkland is 1.4% Black. And even if all 1.4% of the Black families in Kirkland stood up in one voice and said enough, statistically, it's a whisper. And without the support of other BIPOC people and without other white students, nothing's going to change. Oh, and by the way, I'll close with this. A rising tide lifts all ships. It's not pie. You don't get less. Everyone just wants the same slice of pie. And if your skin color is mine, you're getting pie with whipped cream on it. There's people at the table, they just want a slice of pie. The whipped cream will come next. They just want the flippin' slice, if I can use that analogy, and if that's okay with everybody. I want to thank all of you for coming on. I really admire your bravery. You shouldn't have to be brave. You shouldn't have to be the voices. But I think it's important that you're the voices. I know the future is going to be bright for all of you. I have said many, many times on the air how much I love Generation Z. I am so excited. Sorry, millennials. So excited for Generation Z. I think Gen Z and Gen X have a lot of commonalities. And I think that's why Gen X is like, yeah, Gen Z. So I want to thank everybody for that. If anybody wants to squeeze in like 30 seconds last word, here's your chance. Okay.
Follow us on the Facebook
and with
group.
That, oh, you're waving by. Okay. I looked up and I could see you there. You guys are getting tons of great comments in the feed. Howie did great calls to action right at the beginning, and we will amplify those links. Joy, I saw your email, but as you know, we were chasing down our guests, and we already done show notes. We will drop those links in a separate post tomorrow, Joy, so a shout out to you. Once again, thank you, everybody. I hope everybody enjoyed that as much as I did. I think that was a tremendous session that we had there. I know that it was very informative to me. We've run way over, but I think this was really important to have this. And with that, what we're going to do to keep the train rolling, we're actually going to do a pause for the cause. And because that wasn't in here, actually, we're going to jump to the next story. We're going to do a pause for the cause, then we'll jump into our next story.
Black coffee is a hub for communities and a hub for meeting people, making friends, and understanding.
What Black coffee is to me is a place to actually call home, a place where Black youth will feel welcomed, where Black families will come and feel like they're at home.
What we're trying to build is more than just coffee. Community is something that we do naturally. We know who's in the community, we know what the deficits are, and we're trying to fix that. We want to bring people together.
My hope is that the phrase grounded in excellence shows up everywhere and that it becomes a movement.
I'm looking forward to hanging out at Black Coffee with my friends and feeling safe.
Black coffee to me means opportunity for people like me and my other friends and family to come here and do homework safely and hang out and stuff like that.
That is happening. It is happening.
Come on, there it goes. I was waiting on the mute button. Black Coffee Northwest is located in Shoreline, Washington. It is on Highway 99. You get off at the 176th exit, which is 175th Ave. I know it can be a little confusing. Go south on 99. They are on the right-hand side of the road. They have amazing coffee. They have amazing merch. And they have potato scones, the most wonderful, delicious thing that you could ever imagine. And with that, we're going to go ahead and jump into our next story. This week's heat event was historic. Seattle reached 108, Spokane reached 109, Kirkland reached 111 at our weather station. Let me try that again. Kirkland reached 111 at our weather station. Richland reached 118. Hundreds are reported to have died from Oregon to British Columbia. There are reports coming in of welfare checks of people calling 911 going, I have not heard from an elderly loved one. Can you please go check? And on Wednesday, authorities were finding people in apartments and condominiums who died alone of heat stroke. Lytton, British Columbia reached 49.6 degrees Celsius. That's 121 degrees in American on Tuesday. Wednesday morning, Lytton, BC burned to the ground in the matter of minutes. 1,000 people had to evacuate. They had no time. The mayor of the town said there was smoke, and within 15 to 20 minutes, quote, the whole town was on fire. 1,000 people evacuated with nothing more than the pets and their clothes on their backs. And yes, tonight, people are missing. And the reports out of Lytton are 90% of the town is gone. Berry crops were destroyed from Oregon to British Columbia. Out in eastern Washington and Oregon, any of the grapes that were facing towards the afternoon sun have essentially been destroyed. The grapes that were facing towards morning sun have survived. In Bellingham, street signs literally melted. No, not like the lettering on them. The whole signs literally melted. Roads buckled throughout Washington state, including major thoroughfares and multiple locations on I-5. In Portland, light rail had to be stopped because the rails had gotten so hot, light rail could not operate. Here in Seattle, light rail had to operate at reduced speed for the exact same reason. Refrigeration units in stores failed to the point it actually is national news. It is also in one of the major retail magazines today. Storerooms became so hot despite having cooling that the perishable food inside of there spoiled. I experienced this personally. During the heat wave, I bought a half a gallon of milk. I opened it. I got 1 day out of it. The next day, it was spoiled. It had clearly been exposed to high temperatures before it had been put on the shelf. Desperate grocery stores put up sheets of plastic and took other actions to try to retain the cool air in the coolers. In some cases, the refrigeration units literally caught on fire from the heat. In Oregon, they had to put up tarps over air conditioning units on roofs to keep them from literally bursting into flames. And now wildfires have erupted from California to British Columbia. Tonight, as I say this, 55 new wildfires in British Columbia in the last 48 hours. Multiple of those fires out of control, 6 of them now considered major fires. In Oregon, the Rentham Market fire has resulted in the declaration of a state of emergency. In California, the lava fire has burned over 20,000 acres, is less than 20% contained, and has resulted in mandatory evacuations. Smoke from Oregon and California is already in Washington. Most of that is in eastern Washington, and fortunately for now, most of it is at high altitude. Although the air isn't exactly chewy in central Washington, there is a little bit some smoke taint at the lower elevations. British Columbia smoke is arriving tomorrow, and that smoke is going to arrive into Puget Sound. But again, fortunately, most of that smoke will stay at altitude. There are some models that suggest on Friday night and Saturday morning, some of that smoke may settle into central Puget Sound. But again, we're not talking chewy, chunky air. We're talking just a hint of what is probably to come in 2021 as the Western United States faces the worst drought in 1,200 years. As I talk tonight, wildfires are literally burning from Vancouver Island to Winnipeg to Duluth, Minnesota to Texas to the California-Mexico border and in multiple places between. And no, climate deniers, not all of these are in national forests which haven't been sufficiently raked, Finland style. It is so bad that Spokane is not going to have their fireworks show on the 4th of July, as in the city's fireworks show, which is shot over a river in a very beautiful setting. Bothell has made fireworks illegal in an emergency order within the city. If you lived within the incorporated parts of Bothell, fireworks were legal there on the 4th of July only. Pierce County, in contrast, has tried to put a fireworks ban in an unincorporated Pierce County, and the council has voted no twice. Now, I'm one that believes in logical consequences. And as much as I would hate to see loss of property and loss of life, if the people on the council for Pierce County can't see the emergency before them, and if there is a wildfire started by fireworks, then maybe the folks in Pierce County shouldn't get state or federal aid in dealing with that fire. I know that's a powerful and dangerous suggestion, but where is the party of accountability when it comes to accountability? We are in crisis. The data is undeniable. I wrote an editorial about this yesterday. Malcontent News started as a weather blog in 2016. It started in forecasting, and it started on the premise of we are in climate change and we need to address it. We need to take steps, and we continue to ignore it. What multiple scientists are saying as they look not just at the wildfires in 2021, not just in the record heat that tore through our region, that just tore through New England in the last couple of days, the multiple 100-year floods that are hitting places like Texas and Louisiana, not every 10 years, not every year, but literally every few months at this point. It's not 30 hurricanes in a year. It's not Australia burning down and now facing record snow. It isn't record brutal cold in Texas, which, by the way, is a sign of climate change. Hence why climate change is a better way to describe than global warming. In some ways, what we experienced was a reverse polar vortex. That is way oversimplifying things, but essentially the jet stream, which would under normal circumstances moved in a pretty orderly fashion and occasionally gets twisted, is now twisting like a hose out of control because there is so much warm air and there is so much cold air. And the jet stream literally wrapped around what would be the cold Arctic air and turned into a massive heat pump that sent record heat all the way to the Northwest Territories of Canada to Waireka, California. We've moved away from talking about the weather because we were talking about politics and social justice and COVID, and all of those things are important. But the reality is, when you look at the data, climate change and global warming and the impact of it is tied to racist policy. How can you say that? How is something you're just trying to grab onto everything? No, because guess where minority neighborhoods were set up? They were set up in undesirable places where white people didn't want to live. Places that flood, places that get fires, places that have the ocean swallowing up the land. And it isn't just white people, it's poor people also. And it isn't just a United States thing, it is a global thing. Talk to farmers who just watch their crops get destroyed. Ask them what their view is on climate change this week. Talk to farmers in the Midwest who have watched floods destroy their corn and wheat crops year after year to now have drought destroying it. Talk to the farmers in Iowa who lost 43% of their crops last year statewide in a hailstorm. Talk to the people in Miami Beach who now have high tide coastal flooding on a normal day in the streets, or Charleston, South Carolina, or Norfolk, Virginia. Or ask the communities in Maryland and Louisiana that are literally disappearing under a rising ocean. Ask those people if they think that climate change is real or a problem at this point. If we don't do something, George Carlin put it best, save the planet? What an arrogant view for us to have, as I paraphrase. This planet could shake us off like a bad case of fleas anytime it wanted to. And something else would reemerge, and the planet will heal itself, and the planet will rebalance itself, and it may not even have an atmosphere millions of years from now because the atmosphere components within this planet, as we know, have changed over millennia and millions of years. And something else will take our place. That's if we want to continue with the hubris, the arrogance, that this isn't real. We're at a point now that I can't even look into the camera, malcontents, and tell you we need to do X. I don't know what we need to do at this point, but I do know this. We need leadership and we need action. Because if we don't get it, what scientists and climatologists are saying, what they're seeing in 2020 was predicted. This was expected, but it was expected around 2050. It's all accelerating faster than what they thought. What happens in another 10 years if we're to 2100 in those projected weather models? Think about it. But the bottom line is we're going to be doing a lot more weather coverage because it ties into social justice, it ties into racism, and it ties into saving us. It's not about saving the planet. It is literally save the humans. Namibia is our next documentary. It will be coming out in the fall of 2021. And as I like to remind people, fall technically does go to December 20th. So I would probably say that is coming in December. We are definitely behind post-production on Namibia. It is a beautiful country and a country of stunning contrast. This is the part of the show too. I'd like to remind you, please spam those hearts again. Mess with that Facebook and Twitter algorithm and make people believe that there's actually worthwhile content to watch here tonight. I actually think, again, we said we're going to do a lot more local coverage. We're keeping to our promise of doing a lot more local coverage. We are going to do some national stories because there are some big stories that we need to talk about. Also, if you're on Twitch, you can go ahead and use our emotes. If you are a subscriber, there's some great emotes there. You can use our Yoda emote. Somebody light up the Yoda emote in the chat. Yoda, who left us in February, but will forever be in all of our hearts, our mascot. With that, I'm going to go ahead and roll our next. I just want to say I am loving the ice cream discussion. I'm seeing there's a couple of times when I only can see, if I'm looking at the main screen, I only see one question, one comment at a time. And every now and then there's like, what the hell is that? You know, like chocolate brownie fudge. What? No, it's like, oh, it's the ice cream question. People are reading the ticker. Hunter Brinton. Hunter Brinton was a 17-year-old teenager in Arkansas. He was working on the transmission of his pickup truck as teenage boys as a rite of passage, doing it less and less these days, but something that they do. He took his truck out for a test drive after trying to get the transmission, see if it got it right. It broke down. A Lonoke County Sheriff deputy arrived. Britton's pickup wouldn't go into park because he was working on his transmission and his transmission failed. Britton went to chalk the wheel with an antifreeze container so it wouldn't roll backwards. And then this happened.
I just miss him so much already, and I just don't know how I'm going to get through this.
A family grieving and a community with questions. People in Lonoke County are trying to figure out how a traffic stop led to the shooting death of a teenager. THV 11's Ashley Godwin talks to family and friends of Hunter Brinton as they try to find out where it went wrong.
After Hunter's death, the hashtag Justice for Hunter started spreading on social media, which led to this crowd here at the Lonoke County Sheriff's Office, where the sheriff is answering questions about his death.
Yeah, I want to know why the officer is not in jail until they find out more stuff. Why?
Yep, I was thinking the same thing.
Why? I mean, he gets to go home to his family. Hunter don't get to come home.
A mixture of emotion, and I understand the anger.
17-year-old Hunter Brinton was shot and killed Wednesday morning by a Lonoke County Sheriff's deputy during a traffic stop. The deputy, Sergeant Michael Davis, pulled him over along Highway 89 near Cabot around 3 a.m. The family says Hunter took his truck for a test drive after working on the transmission at a nearby body shop.
I don't know exactly what occurred, but we will get to the bottom of it. State police, I trust them. They're very professional.
I know it's tough not getting answers. We don't have the answers right now, but it's going to come out.
The investigation was turned over to the Arkansas State Police, including the body camera that Sergeant Davis was wearing. The sheriff was not able to confirm if it was recording at the time.
I feel like we should have more answers. There should be more training.
ASP has not released why the teen was pulled over or what led up to the shooting. Family is just seeking closure and wants a fair investigation.
He was amazing. He was a good kid.
He was good to everybody. He was good to everyone around him. Even if you didn't see him much, you knew that he was around and he was a good person.
We just want justice.
In Lonoke County, Ashley Godwin, THV 11 News.
Sergeant Davis has been a deputy with Lonoke County since 2013. He is currently on administrative leave until the Arkansas State Police completes its investigation. The prosecutor will decide whether to file any criminal charges over the use of deadly force, and THV 11 will continue to follow this story and bring you all major updates.
I saw your comments. Yes and yes. Yes, they're Southern. Yes, they're all white. And I, my heart goes out for every family. It is not the natural order of things for a parent to bury a child. For Black America, this is all too common. And this is why I have said over and over and over again to people that look like me, you might go Black Lives Matter, whatever, right? You're saying all lives matter and then you got a Blue Lives Matter flag on you. Let's face it. Because, well, wait a minute, why are you saying Blue Lives Matter? Well, police have it harder and stuff. And so we have to acknowledge, oh, I see. So then why do you have a problem with Black Lives Matter if you're doing the same thing? Because if you're saying all lives matter and you have a Blue Lives Matter flag, that doesn't add up. So what it looks like is you have a problem with the word black. And it goes back to the theme tonight. A rising tide lifts all ships. By every report, Hunter Britton was not armed. If he was armed, we have a case here by the reports, because a little more information has come out from that video clip, that Hunter Bryan was armed with a bottle of antifreeze that he was using to chalk the wheel of his broken down pickup truck. They don't even know if the body camera was running, and a week has gone by now, and the family has basically been told nothing by the Arkansas State Police. Black America knows this dance music. They know what's going on. They could explain it to white America. They're trying to get their story straight. They're trying to find if Britton even sniffed, I should say Hunter. They're trying to find out if Hunter was even in the same room where pot brownies were being baked. Or maybe Hunter put a bag of flaming dog poo on someone's stairs when he was 12 years old. They're trying to get the story straight among the police officers to turn this into a justifiable shooting, because that's what the police do. Well, there is some news. If you know the name Ben Crump, or if you're going, Ben Crump, where have I heard that name before? Ben Crump was the lawyer who represented George Floyd's family. Ben Crump is representing Hunter Britton's family. We know what Ben Crump did for George Floyd. And hopefully Ben Crump isn't going to allow this to be swept under the rug, because a week later, that's exactly what it looks like Arkansas police is looking to do. There have been daily protests. It's very interesting to me how the local news has been covering those daily protests in comparison to how those news stations in Arkansas covered Black Lives Matter protests. If you want to see the difference between black and white America, go to that TV station and watch some of their other coverage, including the chants and the people that are there demanding the same things that Black America has been demanding for hundreds of years. I've said it so many times. Where are you? Because you know what? If people continued the outrage that existed a year ago today and kept that pressure up and pushed for more change, maybe, just maybe, Hunter Britton and over 278 other names since George Floyd said, "I can't breathe," might still be alive today. Or at least the officers that did misconduct, and I'm not saying all 278 were misconduct. We had one right here in Seattle. At the end of the day, when you saw it, when you saw the body cam video, you saw everything was there, you go, this is a tragedy. The officers were given no choice. But we also saw in Seattle, police essentially execute a mentally ill man on the waterfront. There are choices sometimes. In a lot of cases, there are choices that are not the barrel of a gun. We'll continue to follow that story. We already saw what happened in North Carolina with a black man who was shot in the back of the head, who was driving away and really wasn't a threat to anyone. I don't think there's going to be justice for Britton, and that's my view. and I hope that I'm wrong. Hi, Malcontents. I'm David, the Malcontent, and I'd like to talk to you for a moment about supporting independent media. When you support us, you help us bring the before, during, and after. You help us defend the First Amendment. You help us amplify BIPOC and LGBTQIA voices, and you help us hold leaderships at a local, state, and federal level accountable. None of this would be possible without support by viewers just like you. When you become a patron for as little as $5 a month, you help buy technology, safety equipment, and help cover travel expenses so that we can continue to bring you news that you trust. If you can't become a patron, you can do a one-time donation on Venmo, and your dollars will go to the exact same causes. With your continued support, we can continue to amplify BIPOC and LGBTQIA voices while showing the truth on what is happening in the world around us. Once again, thank you.
Hallelujah! Holy shit! Where's the Tylenol?
Always got to do it at least one show. Let's start all over again. The 10,000, 1,100 challenge. That's what we're looking for you to do. 10,000 followers, 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, and 100 patrons. When we reach those three goals, we will have a meet and greet live event at a BIPOC-owned business. We will host an event to show our appreciation to our subscribers and our followers and our supporters. 10,000 Facebook, we're almost there. We're like this close. 1,000 on YouTube. After the show, just go over to YouTube, hit subscribe to our channel. Doesn't matter if you watch us over here. That's okay. Subscribe, because good things happen when we get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. 100 patrons. For 20, you can do an annual subscription now on Patreon. For $24, you can support us for a year and help us reach that goal of getting to 100 patrons and help keep us independent. 10,000, 1,000, 100. Once we get there, partay. And with that, we're going to go to our next story. I want to introduce everybody to Andre Julius Basca. He's a prison guard. He's currently in Cayuga County Jail. He is, by the way, still a prison guard being paid, even though he is in Cayuga County Jail. With apologies to Chrissy Hine, I'm pronouncing that wrong. He's now an inmate, and as I said, he's getting paid. Let me show you what he's done.
The Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Office says its investigation into rape allegations against a corrections officer continues.
That jailer is already charged with sexually assaulting 3 inmates inside that troubled jail.
5 on Your Side investigator Scott Knoll brought us the breaking story last night at 6. He has uncovered new information tonight.
A Sheriff's Department spokesperson says part of that ongoing investigation is trying to determine if there are more victims out there. Investigators say Cuyahoga County Corrections Officer Andre Basca sexually assaulted 3 men inside the jail between June 1st and June 17th. In 2 of the cases, prosecutors say he forced the inmates into sexual contact. Basca, who worked in the jail since March 2019, is charged with 3 counts of rape, 3 counts of sexual battery, and gross sexual imposition. According to his most recent job performance review, the 34-year-old worked in the jail's mental health unit. Records show he was placed on paid administrative leave after the allegations surfaced last week. Basca was arrested yesterday after prosecutors filed the charges. Today, attorney Henry Hilo, who represents one of the accusers, told 5 on Your Side investigators he was glad the Sheriff's Department responded to the allegations that were made and that they weren't ignored. Hilo didn't want to comment further on the ongoing investigation, saying, "We'll rely on the justice system to act on his client's behalf." Basca is being held at the Geauga County Jail, his bond set at $100,000. In Cleveland, I'm 5 on Your Side investigator Scott Knoll.
You're not the same. I'm an American. You're a sick asshole.
$100,000 bail. Raped 3 mentally ill men in a 17-day period. Men that he was in charge of protecting mentally ill inmates. There shouldn't be mentally ill inmates in 2021. They should be in a mental hospital if they are mentally ill. But we use our prisons and jails as mental institutions. And his bail is $100,000 frickin' dollars.
Watch the F-bombs. This is written.
And he is still technically a guard. He is still on the payroll. The Ohio Patrolmen's Benevolent Association, which is a fancy way of saying police union, has not said if they are going to defend Basca or not. And that's all they had to say about this. The system's not broken. The system works perfectly. The system works exactly as designed, and there is no reforming this. Funny joke! Ha ha! Wait till you see what this former police chief, Ohio, you went full Florida this week, Ohio. You went all in full Florida. Check out what this police chief in Ohio thought was funny joke. I play funny joke, ha ha!
I can't even tell you. I said, I don't have one word to describe how bad this is.
The Sheffield Lake police chief has resigned after video emerged of him placing a sign on a raincoat belonging to a black officer on his police force last week. The city's law director says that sign had KKK imagery on it. Former police chief Anthony Campo told News 5 it was a joke that got out of hand.
But the mayor of the city did speak with our 5 on Your Side investigator Joe Paganakis tonight, saying he is taking this incident very seriously.
Courtney, Rob, the incident took place here at the Sheffield Lake Police Department on June 25th, and it has the Ohio Patrolmen's Benevolent Association getting involved, asking for the video and all records related to the Sheffield Lake discrimination policy.
Disappointed and shocked.
Sheffield Lake Mayor Dennis Bring is now looking for a new police chief after seeing this video that appears to show former Chief Anthony Campo placing a sign on the back of a raincoat owned by an African-American officer on his force. The officer found the paper sign on his coat less than 30 seconds later, a sign the Sheffield law director said it's his understanding was related to the KKK. The mayor says when he found out about the video, he confronted his chief about the incident.
The chief, he made a comment like, what, am I going to get fired over this?
Mayor Bring says that's exactly what he tried to do.
And I said, you have 10 minutes to get out of the building. I want your badge, I want your car keys, and I want your keys to your office.
But the mayor says minutes later, former Chief Campo made a request that he granted.
He said, may I please type up a letter of my resignation, and I want to file, because I want to retire.
Mayor Bring says he sat down with the African-American officer involved and formally apologized on behalf of the city.
We had a very emotional talk, and that was very difficult. And we couldn't talk to each other for 10 minutes because we cried.
News 5 reached former Chief Campo by phone. Campo said the incident was simply a joke that got out of hand, that he was the one who hired the officer involved, an officer that's excellent with children, saving the officer from losing his job at another police department due to age restrictions. Meanwhile, though, Mayor Bring has his own thoughts on the incident.
I hope sometime that he realizes what he's caused and what kind of destruction he did to this community and these people that he's supposed to have served. You know, you take an oath that you're going to serve and protect the community. He didn't do that.
Meanwhile, Sergeant Sean Corr has been named acting chief of the Sheffield Lake Police Department. I'm 5 on Your Side investigator Joe Paganakis.
Hallelujah! Holy shit! Where's the Tylenol?
What's the problem?
Oh, I don't want to have this debate with you again, Evil Lynn. You're talking about cartoon evil, not real world evil, which is essentially a heightened narcissism.
Yeah, I saw your comments. He asked to retire so that he could get his pension. And don't forget, because he got to resign instead of get fired, he can become a police chief somewhere else. Isn't that something? Wouldn't you love to have that kind of power? Here's my questions to the town in Ohio. Are they going to look into the cases that this police chief of persons of color that he arrested, that he charged? Are we going to look and see, did he plant evidence? Did he create false cases against them? Or are we just going to sweep this under the rug? This guy did this in his own house. What, he doesn't know about the cameras that are running in his own building? Funny joke. Ha ha. It's just okay. I hired him. He's my, I can't say it, but you know the word that comes next, right? And if I say it with an A on the end instead of ER, that makes it okay. No, it doesn't make it okay. None of this is okay. System isn't broken. The system works perfectly. The system works as designed. And there is no fixing this. What, more training? What kind of more training are we talking about here? Maybe a few more killology classes? Is that the kind of training that we're going to do? Some sensitivity classes that they're going to mock in the classroom and just ignore? And then I'll laugh at the barbecue at what BS that was. And yes, because the mayor, who, by the way, I feel the mayor came across as very sincere in that interview, and for whatever it's worth, the mayor put his foot down and said, like, what are you going to do, fire me? Yeah, actually, you got 10 minutes to pack all your shit up and get the...
What's the F-bomb? This is written.
Out. Give me your gun, give me your badge, give me your keys. You're done. Bye. Okay. Can I resign instead so I can get my pension? What I suspect happened was probably a call to the city attorney going, so do I have to do this? And he was probably told, yeah, you have to do this because the police union will sue us and we'll probably win. At least that city had enough teeth in the contract to fire that police chief. As we know, the mayor of Seattle, because of the SPOG contract, doesn't have that level of power. Something to think about, malcontents. We've had a bit of a roller coaster of a show tonight, if you think about it. We had these amazing, powerful conversations that we had with future leaders in our country, these amazing students in the Lake Washington School District that shouldn't be put in a position of standing up and asking for help from white allies. Kirkland, I'm talking to you when I say that. We've talked about the climate crisis and this collective trauma, and I maybe say that a little flippantly, but this collective experience that we've all gone through with this incredible weather event. And of course, the question in all of our minds is, when does the really bad smoke come? And it's only July 1st. Do we get another bout of 100-degree heat later this summer? And then, of course, we had 3 stories nationally about police misconduct. And as I say, every week, we could probably do 2 hours a day on police misconduct across the country. America should be asking for more, for way more, and yet we continue not. But we're going to end it on a happy note, on a high note. You don't think we were going to end the show on a low note. People are going to be upset for me quoting Andrew Dice Clay, but one of the best movies was, I can't even remember the name of the movie, where it's the private investigator and he looks at the camera right at the end because you think they killed the koala bear and the koala is like, what? You really think we're going to kill the koala, did you? So I know it's a bizarre segue in my bizarre brain that goes in a million directions. On June 19th, Mixed Coffee in Mill Creek opened. Mixed Coffee is BIPOC and woman-owned. Savannah Jackson was incredibly gracious to let us join her on opening day. I will say, I did say to Savannah, are you really sure you want our cameras there on opening day? Maybe not want to wait a week. And she's like, no, come on. And I'm really glad we showed up at 10. One of the things that I'm proud of our coverage is we had people, as we were running our live stream coming in, I came in because of your live stream. I love it when I can look at our team and go, see, we help make the world a little bit of a better place. And with that, let me introduce you to Savannah. Here is our amazing owner of Mix, Savannah, how are you today?
I'm so happy. How are you, everyone? Our coffee is from Arkin Roasters. They get their blends, their beans, from all over South America and all over Africa. And so the blend that we are using is a Latin American blend. So it's just like 3 or 4 Latin American countries, and it's so good. Yeah, so this is my staff, hard at work. I'm really proud of my team. They're so amazing. This one here, she's the best at coffee. Some latte art. I'm so sorry about that. One of the cool things about my staff is that we all went to Seattle Barista Academy.
I didn't even know it was a Seattle Barista Academy.
Yes, we had 2-day full jam-packed training. We learned how to make drinks. We learned our entire menu we put together. Oh my gosh, we have a line out the door. I'm gonna cry.
Tell us about your signature item.
Yes.
We talked about this.
Yes, pan de yuca.
Pan de yuca.
Yes, pan de yuca. It is up and down South America. You can find it in Brazil, Colombia, Ecuador, where my family is from. I think you can find them in Peru and Argentina, and they all have different names, but they're all pretty much the same thing. and it's tapioca flour, cheese, butter, eggs, and it's like a cheesy ball bread. This is our cookies and cream ice cream, and we have vegan strawberry. And let me tell you, I'm not a fan of vegan, but this vegan is so creamy, it tastes just like ice cream.
Can I get a little taste of the vegan strawberry there? I am not vegan, but I do like vegan food. I'm just going to qualify everybody
I
here.
got it. Here we go.
I think in the name of independent journalism and research, I need to get more of that to confirm just how good it is.
And then we also have cookies, which are homemade, or in-store made.
They're in-store made, yeah.
Yes, in-store made. Because we are a mixed family, I'm half black and half Ecuadorian. The chocolate is from Ecuador. We get our chocolate blocks from Ecuador, and that's what we put in our mochas. We use our hot chocolates, and we use it in our cookies. It's good. So creamy, so smooth. It's my favorite thing.
Sell the cream! Extreme Cream Cam. They make their own whipped cream. Like, they make everything here.
Yeah, we do.
We're going to talk about merch. Let's talk about merch. They got merch.
We have shirts for sale. They are $25, and this is what they look like in black.
No!
That's what it looks like in white. So our Instagram and our TikTok is @Mixed Coffee Shop, so MIXED Coffee Shop. And then our Facebook, we have a Facebook page, Mixed Coffee and Community. Our address is 800 164th Street, Southeast, Suite N as in Nancy, in Mill Creek. And I'm just really excited to be here, and I am so excited to share my food, my culture, our amazing drinks that we have just with everyone. Thank you all so much for watching.
I had so much fun. If you caught that live stream, I hope it came across that I was having so much fun with that stream and so much time that was there. Amazing food, amazing coffee. Savannah is an incredibly gracious host. One of the things, you might have seen the popovers in the camera. They were below the cookies. The one that I had was guava and cheese. So, kind of more like a sweet cream cheese. I just, like cheese, but, like a sweet cream cheese. I got that totally like, okay, let me try this. Oh, that is potato scone competition right there. Okay. That is just so good. Oh my God. And the vegan ice cream, the strawberry, was flat out excellent. And as I said, not a vegan. I do like vegan food. I will be what I call accidentally vegetarian about once a week. I don't set out to be vegetarian. It'd kind of be like at the end of the day, I'm like, wow, I was vegetarian. Maybe about once a month or twice a month, I'm actually accidentally vegan. I get to the end of the day and I'm like, wow, I didn't eat even like eggs or cheese today. So it does happen. Yeah, the Pantayaco, yuca, oh my God, it's just, if you've ever been to like the Brazilian steakhouses where they do it's similar, but because it's Ecuadorian, it's a little different. And as Savannah said, many countries in South America have their interpretation of this. This is a very, very common dish in many South American countries, but they're a little different in each country that you go there. I know that I had an amazing time, and I was told that on Saturday night, this coming Saturday night, the 3rd, they're going to be doing a board game night at Mix. So if board games are your things and you want to support a woman-owned, BIPOC-owned small business that's got amazing food and amazing coffee and amazing drinks, they also have sandwiches because they were right in their grand opening and they're still working some of the kinks out. That very day at that time, didn't have sandwiches. They're just, yeah. But, the other thing about those popovers, the turnovers, the outside is so flaky. I ate mine driving. I will say this, it is not good road food. You're just going to be covered in flaky pastry. I was like this when I got out of my car. So with that said, that is a sit down and eat item. It is not a road food item. A lot of other things there are road food. There were so many things I wanted to try, and I tried about 4 or 5 different things while I was there. Again, give them a check out. The other thing, if you're watching right now and you are a BIPOC owned business, and you're like, I have a business, how can? Send us an email. You can send us an email at our tips line. We have a tips line. Sometimes the keyboard's asleep. There we go. You can send it to tips@malcontentment.com. And we will do a story on your BIPOC owned business. We want to do more local stories, and we have a number of businesses that we have cards that we're going to start reaching out to and be doing that. So, Sue, welcome. First time here. We're not a group. This is Malcontent News. And this is our twice a week news program. We were technically once a week this week because we were storm chasing. I say that with air quotes. You say storm chasing, people think tornadoes and hurricanes and wildfires. We were chasing the heat wave in the quest of looking for the highest temperature. Interestingly, went to Maple Valley, went to Issaquah. Then I decided, nah, let's go back up. We went up to Totem Lake, a known hotspot. It was 113 at Totem Lake. My guess in Maple Valley was right. Maple Valley has an unofficial high temperature of 118 degrees, and the National Weather Service is working on certifying that temperature. Damn your fast KV. What did I miss? Apparently I missed something, but I'm glad that somebody was fast. Malcontents, that's it. The last thing I'm just going to say one more time, go ahead and spam those hearts. Let those mods and admins know that they really, that you really appreciate them and for all the hard work that they do. If you're watching us on YouTube or Twitter, if you're watching us on Twitch, you can use our emotes. If you're a subscriber, you can use the Yoda emote. Yoda the Wonder Pug left us at the end of February, forever in our hearts. If you're watching us on YouTube, sorry YouTube, you don't have anything cool. You'll have some cool stuff when we get to 1,000 subscribers over there, which by the way brings me up to the final point. The 10,000, 1,100 challenge. 10,000 followers on Facebook, 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, 100 patrons. When we reach those 3 goals, we are probably going to hit the Facebook goal tomorrow. All it will take is about 200 or 300 of our Facebook followers to literally just go over to YouTube and go, oh, okay, subscribe, and we'll hit that goal. And then we just need about 50 more people to put in $24 a year. That's the minimum subscription, or $5 a month, or $10 a month. And we'll hit our 100. When we reach those goals, we are going to do an event, a live event, to show our appreciation to our followers and thank you for our growth. Malcontents, thank you for tuning in tonight. We will be back on Monday. There is one thing I want to preface. Thursday, probably going to be in Studio One. The reason being, a lot of the equipment here is used for the marketing side of the house. With the state opening up on June 30, congratulations everybody, we have our first, on the side of the house that pays the bills, we actually have our first live event since COVID, and that actually is on Thursday the 8th. That is going to mean breaking down a lot of the equipment that we use here in the studio for Malcontent News, and I don't know if we're going to be able to get it all back together in time for Thursday. We'll do a show on Thursday. We'll probably be old school back in Studio One. Malcontents, be good to each other. Malcontent.
Malcontent News is a team of journalists, activists, and researchers with 3 key missions. A commitment to show an unfiltered view of the before, during, and after of key events, live, as it happens. To defend the First Amendment using our rights of a free press. And to amplify the voices of underrepresented individuals including Black, Indigenous, persons of color, and the LGBTQIA+ community. Our team is committed to seeking equality for all and holding those in power accountable. The easiest way to support Malcontent News is to bookmark our website at malcontentnews.com, like and follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, and in the Google News app. To provide financial support, you can become a patron, make a one-time donation through Venmo, or link your Twitch account to your Amazon Prime account and use your free subscription to subscribe to Malcontent News. Thank you for supporting independent journalism and for being a malcontent.
You fit the profile. You're the malcontent.
Nobody wants to hear the nonsensical ravings of a loudmouth malcontent.
Fuck you! You are the biggest hypocrite on the face of the planet.
I say that you're a terrible reporter.